concept of death in itself. I think it's more dispersion, because we keep pushing back further and further what legal death is, to the point that we decide, okay, that person is no longer recoverable. You know, and I think that we could maybe push it really far in the future, but I think it more in terms of dispersion than death these days. So the parts of our body break down and the elements disperse, and they go on to make other bodies, and they may not even be other human bodies. They may be, part of you may end up becoming part of a plant, part of you may become part of a worm, part of you may become part of a dog, or blades of grass, you know, daisies, pushing up the daisies. And it just gets recycled. All of this physical matter gets recycled. And I think the same thing happens with soul material. That, not exactly, because it's non-physical, so it doesn't have all the same limitations that the physical matter does. So for example, you can take software on one computer and copy it onto another computer, and you didn't lose the original software. You can take one candle and light another candle, and you know, the plasma, you just copy the process onto the other part and matter, and it triggers off plasma, right? Standing wave. But basically, I think that we copy parts of our souls onto each other, and part of the great work of the left-hand path of Luciferianism, in my opinion, is to take the components that you're given, that you find yourself with, that you pick up along the way, that you choose to absorb, and forge them into as harmonious and unified of a whole as possible. And who knows what can happen if you are able to really unify those parts. Maybe after your body stops working, maybe the bonds between the different parts, maybe there are no bonds between parts anymore. Maybe it's just all one working unit now, and whole chunks, or maybe even the entire thing as a whole, if you're very advanced, could maintain itself as a full unit. And that would be one way that maybe a literal ascension or apotheosis could occur, is through forging the soul bits into one unified soul for yourself.
So, sorry, two questions related to that one. So does it mean Luciferian doesn't believe in reincarnation?
I can only talk about myself, as I said before, because there are lots of Luciferians that do believe in reincarnation, and this is just kind of something that I kind of developed through studying of all kinds of different philosophies and the different things that made sense, and studying alchemy and stuff like that. But I don't believe in reincarnation in the way that most people do, like that there's a soul, and when your body dies, it goes into this non-physical plane for a while and then gets sucked into, you know, a newborn body, or newly conceived body, or whatever, and lives sequence after sequence of life, you know, and even, you know, a lot of the really deep esoteric Buddhist teachings, they don't say that. They say it's not like a body jumping, or a soul jumping from body to body. It's more of dice, one stacked upon the other. And it took me a really long time to kind of wrap my head around that concept, but I think that it's related to kind of the idea that I've kind of developed for myself about the great work and the nature of the soul. So I don't believe in reincarnation that way, but I do believe that you can even become the reincarnation of somebody by just reading all their books and studying their life work, you know, and taking it on as kind of taking their mission on as your own. You can become, in a sense, a reincarnation of somebody who's not even dead, even, you know, because you've absorbed so many of, you've copied so many of their soul parts into your own soul and accepted them. Then in a way you become a reincarnation of them. And I think that there can be tons and tons of reincarnations of an individual even before they're dead. And you know, that doesn't mean that those other people are not their own person. It's just means that they've inherited a lot from those other people, their predecessors in those terms.
So, how about the phrase, we were never born, so we will never die?
I never heard that one before, but I like it though. I don't believe in the idea of a beginning and an end. I just think of eternity infinitely in both directions of time. I don't think there was a Big Bang. I think that just it's always been here and always will be in one form or another. Yeah, so I kind of like that saying.
I'm thinking about ego destruction a lot lately, pertaining to the left-hand path kind of thing, because you were talking about how it's more a right-hand path to myself. But in a way, I feel like by adopting the label of Satanist, it's going to like a process of ego destruction as well, and by aligning yourself with something which has not been typically seen as good in society. So I think like there's a lot of overlap with that whole concept, and I just wanted to kind of get your take on that.
Yeah, well, ego destruction, in right-hand path practice, ego destruction is a big thing, and destroying the ego, killing the killer, a lot of times is what it's described as, and they see it as a way of escape, in a way, suffering of life and things like that. When left-hand path people do it, it's done with a very different intention. It's not ego annihilation, it's breaking it down into its component parts. And that's the first step necessary in alchemy, to build it back up. So you do kind of have to break it down into like a slurry of its components, but then you have to take each of those components and really purify them, not in some moralistic way, but in terms of really investigating them and making sure that each of them has integrity within itself, that it's consistent within itself and consistent with all the other parts, and you do that for each component of yourself until you build it back up into an entire whole that is consistent. So there are things that you do to break it down, but it's not annihilating it. It's just dissecting it in a way and understanding it, so you can fix it,
like,
heal it.
Yeah, or it gives you greater individuation when you start actually breaking your ego, because you're kind of escaping certain things like limitations. So in a way, I don't know. It's like
It's like deprogramming as well.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that the goal with it, if you feel like that you resonate with the left-hand path goal, that you shouldn't try and annihilate the ego. You should try and, but there is an aspect of breaking it down, but not decimating it. Just kind of a controlled breaking down and rebuilding.
Well, it's kind of like actually more of a rebirth, I would say, on the left-hand path. It's like you're actually creating a new ego by breaking down the old one.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, for sure.
Yeah.
Let me ask one.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
just curious. So, do you guys wear the inverted pentagram? And what's really the meaning of the inverted pentagram if you dress the hood?
Yeah, a lot of Luciferians really like inverted pentagrams.
Sorry?
A lot of Luciferians really enjoy inverted pentagrams.
Not just the Satanists, or they don't wear inverted pentagram.
Yeah, not just Satanists. Luciferians also really like the inverted pentagram. You know, for different reasons. It's such a... The pentagram itself, whether it's inverted or not, is such a complex symbol. You know, we could do a whole lecture just on that, just on the meaning of the pentagram in itself. But one of the things that I kind of see